Welcome back. Today's theme is bush. So we've moved up from a tree, or I guess down in this sense. Um, to do that, I think I'm going to start off by making a circle and then cutting it in half, or a sphere rather. So make this. And we don't need as many faces. Actually, it can help to have more faces because we're going to use particle systems later. So let's keep the faces up. Go to edit mode. So I think the approach I'm going to take today is basically, as I said, with the particles, but I'm going to make kind of like flowers, two sets of flowers that will both become particles for the bush. One will be more colorful and one will just be green. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll make some on-the-fly adjustments, but that was just the idea I came up with. So to do that, initially my idea was to use curves and use a path and a circle and kind of like combine them and then use that shape, which is what I used previously when making a leaf. But it turns out if you do that, it doesn't work on the circle. And I figured that out the hard way. So we're going to do it a slightly easier way. It's not going to look maybe quite as nice, but that's fine. So we'll select some sides here and create some edge loops. And that will work. Let's do 2. Oops. And then we'll select these 2 edges, and because we want these to be leaves, along the Y direction, we'll kind of make it, and think about like 45 degrees-ish should be good. And then we can do the same with these. Actually, we want to do the same with all these edges. And all these edges. And that is to move them inwards along the Y direction. Oh, I guess that's not how that works. And just like this edge and this edge too. Kind of go something like this. That looks a bit like a leaf. And in fact, we can probably make these a little steeper now. Oh, no. This and this. Kind of like that. I think that should be pretty good. And from here, so this is kind of one leaf. We want to give it a bit of volume instead of it being flat. So what we can do, probably let's look at it from a different side. Is we can take this face and we can just move it up a little bit. So let's do this and let's just move it up. I think maybe just like the minimum amount that we can move it up. So now we have one of our petals, and in order to make more petals, what we'll do is we'll take this while we're still in the same object, because we're going to want this to all be one object before we make it a particle system. Duplicate it and move it down. So we want to move it along the x-axis. Oops, GX. And you can use control if you want it to be exactly touching, but because we have 4 petals, we're going to want some space to be in between. So I like using shift plus control, which gives you a couple extra kind of notches. And so we're trying to make this kind of like a square. It's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't need to be. Because the petals are going to be so small by the time we use them that you won't even be able to tell. So let's make another duplicate. This time we're going to rotate along the z-axis exactly 90 degrees. I guess it doesn't need to be exactly 90 degrees, but I don't know, it feels right. We'll move you up along this axis. That still needs to be a little more. I think this is roughly equal. It's probably not, but we'll see. Yeah, so we want to move up a little more. Oops. What happened here? Why is there no faces? I messed something up here. Okay, there we are. What happened? That's interesting. Okay. Let's look back from the top, and this time we will move you over along the x-axis using shift and control. And that should be roughly good. It's not going to be perfect, like that. And we'll do the same thing one more time. Shift D, G, Y. Oh, no, we didn't need to do Y, but now that we've already done it, okay. Or we didn't need to do G. So we create this, and then we rotate along the z-axis. It should be symmetric, but just in case, we can do that. And then, to finish off the flower, what we can do is add in an extra sphere, and we will move that sphere with the y-axis still towards here. We'll size it down a little bit. Move it along the x-axis towards here, towards the middle. Size it down yet again. And then we'll look at it from the side and get rid of all the extra material on the bottom that we're not going to end up seeing. So we can delete all those faces. Oops, and since I wasn't in X-ray mode, let's just do it again. Okay, now we should... Oh my god, what did I do? I think that should do it. Okay, I think that should be good. Don't even need to fill in the bottom of the flower. Actually, let's fill it in because we're going to use some randomized rotation angles. So there's a chance that the bottom of the flower could be pointing up. So let's do something like that. We now have a pretty good flower, I'd say. And so now what we could do is we can take this whole thing, maybe size it down a little bit. Oh, not like that. Like that. Size it down a bit. Okay, now let's begin work on this particle system. And this is the part I've had kind of like the least experience with. So I'm going to try, but no promises that this will go great. Okay, so we go to this particle properties over here, hit plus to create a new one. And we want it on the emitter settings. Frame start and frame end, basically this is for animation. If you want particles to start appearing like bubbles or snow, that kind of thing. But since we're just making a model with no animation, we start at 0 and we end at 0. Okay, right now we just have a bunch of balls because we haven't assigned a material that will be the particle. So it just assumes you want a sphere as a particle, which makes sense because, you know, whenever we're considering particles, if we don't know what a particle is, we just kind of assume it's a sphere. Let's now go to render. And we're going to render as an object. And now that it's given us this object, we can select the instance object, and we want it to be the plane. And now we have all of these. For whatever reason, it's not going around all the sides, but I'm hoping that by the time we fix all these settings, hopefully that will adjust itself. So let's try and scale these up a little bit. I don't understand why they're all moving this direction. That doesn't make sense, but let's see what we can do about that. I think we want to go to rotation, turn rotation on. We want to fully randomize the phase. We want to randomize the orientation. We can add a phase shift, kind of randomize that as well, just because, you know, they're going to be growing out at all different in all different directions. Maybe not as random, something like that. Just trying to get it to look decent. Okay, let's close out of that. So we now have all the flowers, or some of the flowers. So what we want to do now is create a material for this object. So the first material is just going to be the green. That's typically for a leaf. That looks about good for a bush. And maybe we'll make the central sphere a new material. So to select the whole sphere, I just clicked on any of the face and then hit L. And then we'll make a new material for you. And since you're a flower bulb, honestly, I kind of like the look of this yellow, even though it's just like selected right now. So let's try and go for a yellow color. Maybe like a yellowish green. Try and make it look natural, maybe a little darker. Something like this. When they look inverted, it gets a little weird. I wonder if I should make the sphere whole. I think that actually might be a good idea, and it shouldn't be that much effort. All we have to do, I think if we're back in edit mode, we select all of you, is to make a mirror modifier. I'm hoping with all the particles that's not going to crash, but let's see. Hopefully it doesn't. Made a mirror modifier. This is not the right axis. We just want a z-axis. Oh, but it flips the whole thing. I guess that's okay. I just don't like them being this far away. Why is it this far away? Is this not on the... Oh, it's not. What? That is so weird. I thought this was on the plane of the whatever. Okay, I think we've selected everything now. Let's look from the side, move you down. And if you hear that, that is rain outside, so don't worry about it. It's okay. Okay, so this obviously doesn't look perfect, right? Because we have this little gap in between. But I think your eyes won't really notice it most of the time when you're just looking at this from a distance. Maybe they will. No, I think you can kind of get away with it. So I'm just going to use this kind of little cheat. Then what we'll do is we'll go to object mode, and we will duplicate this. Let's move it along the x-axis just so we see it in a different location. And we'll change the colors of everything. So we'll go here and to materials, and we'll select all and create a new material. And this material will be a flower. Flowers, I don't know, like a pink maybe? Wow, it is really coming down out there. That's crazy. Okay, wind and rain. So if we assign this, now we have that. And then what would complement the pink? Well, before we figure that out, let's add it to the bush. And actually, before we add it to the bush, let's go back to object mode, go back to our sphere, which is the bush itself. The bush itself. Yeah, that is the sphere. And making a new material, and in fact, not a new material, just the same green that these leaves are, so they kind of blend in. Nice. Okay, we now want to go to particle systems, add a second system. This one is going to be for the pink flower. So we'll do the same thing we did before, adjust the velocity a little higher. Oh, that's probably what moved it over, is velocity. I'd watched a video earlier, and they're just like, oh, up the velocity. And I didn't really know what it meant. But I think that's probably kind of why everything got offset. So I wonder if there's a direction to this velocity that you can, that's probably what this stuff is about. Anyways, let's see what happens, and then we can always adjust it later. We're going to render as an object and choose our object to be plane 01, which is the pink, I believe, right? Yeah. Okay, back to here. We've now chosen that. Want to scale everything up. Why is there only one? What is happening? Why? Oh, because of this, of course. 0 to 0. Forgot to do that. Okay, now the scale is obviously far too large. So let's reduce that down to maybe like 0.05. Okay, maybe a little higher, like 0.1 or something. That looks about good. And let's see if does adjusting the velocity. Yeah. Well, it does. It's still kind of off center no matter what, but it makes it bigger, I guess. Interesting. Okay, let's keep it at about 1, I think then. I wonder why it's like. It seems like there's a bias towards the side closer to these leaves. That's interesting. There's probably some fun stuff you can do with that. But for today, we're just worried about this. Okay, so we've created these pink flowers now. And let's add some rotation to them. Let's randomize their orientation, randomize their phase. Maybe not quite that much. Change their phase until we find something that kind of completes the look. That looks about right. Okay, and now now that we have that in place, let's take this flower and select a phase, hit L. Oh, no, that doesn't work. There we go. Hit L to select all of that, and create a new material for the center of the pink flower, which we are going to make maybe blue, like a nice sky blue or something. Would that look good? Doesn't really look natural. It kind of looks like candy or something. So maybe let's go with a different color, maybe like a dark purple or something. Darker, yeah, something like that. So now we have these green leaves and these pink leaves, and it kind of creates this general bush shape, which I think looks pretty good. So now let's create kind of a backdrop for our bush. Do that by creating a plane. Oh, not like that. Oh my goodness. Okay. We also want to hide this plane and this plane because we don't really care about them anymore now that we have them on the bush. Let's make a plane and let's make it really big. And I mean really big. In past videos I haven't made it large enough, so when I upload the model to Sketchfab, which is this free website where you can look at other people's stuff, and you try and get a good angle of it, you know, you would see the end of the plane. So I'm trying to just make it large enough that I can zoom in and it'll just be plane. Okay, we've created this. Again, I feel like this will be in some sort of field, kind of like with the past nature ones. So let's make it a nice kind of greenish. And then let's adjust our light to be an area. I think that should be pretty good. Let's change it to 2500 for power. And then let's look into our camera. Looks like it's already pretty good. Let's just move up a little and maybe zoom in. Oh, that's not how you zoom in. How do you zoom in? I know there's some way of like adjusting the focal length, yeah, right here. But I'd rather just kind of move in. Can I shift tilde move in? Oh my god, I can't. Perfect. Just like that. Now let's go into our fully rendered mode so we can kind of see what it looks like with these lights. I think the shadows created by the individual leaves kind of give it this a bit of a weird look. You can kind of see these shades here. So I think I'm going to add a second light off to the left. So to do that, I'll just come over here, look from the top, FD, RZ. Oh, not like that. Let's just move you. Go over here or something. And like that. And then now when we move in here, and we zoom in, I think that looks better. It looks like a bush. I am pretty happy with that. How much time have we spent so far? Only 17 minutes? Oh, we have extra time. Look at that. Okay, what can we add to our bush to make it nice? Maybe we can add some like berries or something. I think what we can do to make a quick berry, like sometimes you'll see like red berries on a bush, like red circular berries. So I'm going to try and do that. To do that, I'm just going to quickly make a UV sphere, move it off to the side for a second. Size it down. Actually, the size doesn't really matter because we're eventually going to make it invisible. Give it a new color. It's going to be a pretty dark red. Actually, it's going to be a pretty bright red, I guess. I feel like fruits are typically pretty bright. So we have that. Now we can go back to our sphere, and we can add another particle system. And this particle system, again, will start at 0, go to 0. Maybe we'll reduce the number to like 200 because there's going to be a lot less of these. We will go to render. We're going to render as an object. Select our object to be sphere 01, which is our red sphere. And now we need to adjust the scale. Okay, so obviously that's too big, but we want it to be a little smaller. And then we're going to need to up the velocity so that we can actually see the berries, have them pop through every little bit. Okay, I think about there is good. Maybe let's make them a little smaller. They look a little big. Let's drop them to 0.1 or so. That looks good. Now we have berries. They seem to appear more on one side than the other, but I think that might just be the same bias thing we've been dealing with. Okay, we have those berries now. We can take this and hide it away. So now we have our full bush with berries and leaves, 2 different types of leaves. I think when you look at this, that looks pretty good. I think. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to add. Could add more types of berries, but I think it would get a little crowded at that point. So, I don't know. I think this is pretty good as is. Pretty happy with it. Let's look at the time. We have about 30 seconds left. What can we add in the last 30 seconds? Let's mess with our light sources, I guess, because it is a little bit bright. So let's go back to our light settings and maybe drop each of them to 1500 now that we have 2. And this guy's a lot higher up, actually. I didn't realize that. So let's move him down and get him about equal. Okay. GZ, move you down. here-ish. Yeah, okay, they're not exactly the same height, but I think you look in the camera, it is a good effect, kind of makes it well lit. You can see the different types of leaves and the berries. And that is 20 minutes. So with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.